Hi, everybody, and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Grade 1 stakes races, Breeders' Cup prep races, coast to coast, and Out of the Gate has you covered. DRF handicappers Matt Bernier, Mike Beer, and I will take a look at the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile from Keeneland, the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup from Belmont, the Grade 1 Santa Anita Sprint Championship from the Great Race Place out in Southern California. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on some important Grade 1 stakes races for 2-year-olds this weekend at Keeneland. JK's play of the day, the cross-country pick 4, 2 Grade 1s at Belmont, 2 Grade 1s at Keeneland. Craig Milkowski's TimeformUS Spotlight takes a look at the prestigious Jockey Club Gold Cup, plus best bets, horses to watch, and lots more. So let's break out of the gate. We begin out of the gate as we do each and every week with our Horse Watch segment. 4 of the horses on our Horse Watch list on DRF.com came back to win last week. Let's get some more live ones out there. Mike Beer, NYRA analyst, who caught your eye last week?
2-year-old named Avery Island for Kieran McLaughlin, Godolphin Stables. Horse has a really nice pedigree. Debuted at Saratoga and took money for that race, but debuted sprinting. And this horse is not a sprinter. Bred to go long. He could not keep up with the pace going shorter. Here's his second start. Kieran brought him back to Belmont Park, stretched him out in distance, and yes, he caught a wet track in this race. But I think it was really the key to his success here is getting a little bit of added ground to work with. They put him right on the front, and he pounded this field right on the front end. They never really asked him to run in this stretch. This is a nice performance, 79 buyer speed figure for this horse, a 2-year-old who I think has a lot of upside. He just wants to go long.
This is a horse that we might see in a race like the Remsen a little bit later this year for 2-year-olds at Aqueduct. Matt Bernier, Southern California. We talked about this horse a little bit on Weekend Wrap.
We certainly did. Responsible for Love for Team Valor. She's a horse that ran most recently in the Rodeo Drive last Saturday afternoon, and it was one of those definitions of it was a perfect trip until it wasn't. We're going to take a look at the replay right now. Keep an eye out for those Team Valor silks, the red and the green. She's down in behind horses. Goldie Esponi kind of just idled a little bit. This filly, Responsible for Love, got shuffled back, and you're going to see she's going to need to wait a little while. She eventually squeezes up the rail and makes a bit of a run. Right here, it doesn't look like she has any chance. She gets within about 3/4 of a length of Avenge, and Avenge had a candy trip in this spot. The problem now is, and it's going to be interesting to see where we decide to go with her, because the Breeders' Cup filly Mare Turf is at 9 furlongs. Seems like her best runs have come north of 10 furlongs and even into the 11-12 furlong range. Filly Mare Turf might be a little bit sharp for her, but if she shows up there, maybe she's one you want to use underneath at a big number.
Like Mike, my Horse Watch is a 2-year-old. This one is based up at Woodbine for trainer Reed Baker, and his name is Peppered. Now, Peppered won his second lifetime start, stretching out from 5 furlongs all the way to 1 mile and 70 yards, and that win second time out with a good buyer speed figure of 82 made him the odds-on favorite in the Grade 3 Gray Stakes. We're going to take a look at that race right now, and I believe this race comes out down to ground loss. Peppered is stuck in a 4-wide trip every step around the racetrack, and you look at the pace. There is no pace whatsoever. 24-2, 49 flat, and this horse is still going to try to maintain this wide move all the way around the turn and into the stretch. And while he's losing ground, the eventual winner, the little half-brother to Kentucky Derby and Preakness winner Big Brown, is just getting a great trip. He saved ground all the way through the turn, split horses, and is on his way. But I do like the fact that Peppered really doesn't give up. He is still digging in. He is easily second best in the Grade 3 Gray. And this is a horse that has the pedigree to appreciate longer distances and perhaps more importantly dirt. His dam's a half to the multiple Grade 1 stakes winner On Fire Baby, the Grade 2 stakes winner High Heels, the stakes winner French Kiss. All 3 of those horses did good things on dirt. That's Peppered, a 2-year-old based in Canada, trained by Reed Baker. Let's get to some handicapping. The Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile highlights a big afternoon of racing at Keeneland. We begin our handicapping segments here on Out of the Gate with the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile at Keeneland. Let's take a look at this field. For expanded stakes previews of most of the graded stakes races all weekend long, head on over to video.drf.com. The winner of this race last year is the number 8 Miss Temple City. She is 3-1 as she takes on the boys again. But gents, this is such a wide open race. You can go so many different ways. Mike, are you happy with the way Miss Temple City has come back from her most recent excursion to Europe?
I mean, I guess not really. I mean, she obviously didn't run well over there. I thought she was pretty bad in her first start back at Monmouth. I don't know what her excuse was that day. I thought that was a poor performance. She bounced back with a little bit of a better run last time at Kentucky Downs. I still wasn't blown away by her. I still wonder if she hasn't lost a step this year. But it was nice to see her get back to the winner's circle last time.
We know she loves Keeneland, obviously, by virtue of winning this race, by virtue of her win, I believe, in the Makers 46 as well, over Matt's selection in this field, the extremely speedy and gritty Heart to Heart.
We talk about it all the time. Pace makes the race. Heart to Heart is another one of those horses that he's too talented not to have a grade 1 to his name just yet. But he's the kind of horse, you throw anything in his path, he's going to say, no mas, I don't want to do this. You let him get out there and just roll on the front end like he did in the Bernard Baruch most recently, he's going to make you pay. You give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. No pun intended for this mile here. We're going to go out there. I think Florent Geroux, this is his first time aboard this horse on Saturday afternoon. You got one job. You got to go. You got to clear. Even if the other cheaper horses want to come and put a little bit of pressure on you early, go 46-4, go 47. Don't allow the Miss Temple Cities and the Divisaderos and the other runners into the race. Get out there, try to blow this thing open, and maybe this sets him up nicely for a run at Del Mar in the Breeders' Cup.
He is so dangerous simply because of everything Matt said, that early speed especially. There aren't really any other burners in this field. Heart to Heart should be able to set up shop up front, which means, Mike, that your top selection might be up against it just a little bit because you're coming from the back of the pack.
Yeah, we'll see if Divisadero can get the right kind of a setup and then get the right kind of run into it. Obviously, he needs at least a little bit of pace in this race. It's a 14-horse field, grade 1, $1 million purse. I hope that somebody's going to go up there and make Heart to Heart race at least a little bit in this race. That would help Divisadero. And I know that he hasn't ever wanted a mile, guys, but I actually kind of like them cutting him back to this kind of a distance. His last 2 races at 1.25 miles, I think that's a poor distance for him. I think it's too far. I think he lacks kick going 10 furlongs. I like him cutting back here. All he needs is a clean trip into this race. He is good enough to run these horses down, and I'm hoping that he gets it on Saturday.
Let's go back to his most recent big performance at Churchill Downs in the Turf Classic on Derby weekend. This is his weekend. This is his track. He's won on Derby weekend the last 3 years, including this race the last 2. And this is what happens where you give this horse an opportunity to show off that strong kick. Matt Divisadero, always dangerous, always has that puncher's chance.
I think Mike's 100% about the distance, though. I know he may not have gone a mile or won at the mile just yet, but I think these shorter distances really accentuate that late kick. And recently, his 2 most recent starts both were at 1.25 miles. I think this mile is going to work well.
Matt wants the speed. Mike wants the closer. I want someone in the middle, and that's Bala Rocks for trainer Bill Mott, who has really improved ever since the blinkers have come on 5 or 6 starts ago. Perhaps most importantly for Bala Rocks, in his last couple of races, he has shown a willingness to race close to the pace, and that can be very important if Heart to Heart goes out there and sets a moderate pace. He won't have so much work to do, Bala Rocks, when the field turns into the stretch. Let's go back to his most recent performance, the 4-star Dave Handicap, just absolutely a boggy turf course at Saratoga. That's the speedy filly Sassy Little Lila on the lead. Bala Rocks is going to collar her, but right on top of Bala Rocks is World Approval, a horse that just loved this turf course and a horse that has just turned himself into arguably the best turf miler in North America right now. Good performance for Bala Rocks. No match for the rallying time test. I thought he moved sort of in the teeth of the pace into that 3rd quarter, and I think a good stalking trip is coming at a playable price for Bala Rocks in the Shadwell Turf Mile at Keeneland. Really, the weekend starts at Keeneland on Friday, opening day, with the Grade 1 Alcibiades for 2-year-old fillies. You've got the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity also for 2-year-olds as part of that big Saturday card, and Nicole Russo's got you covered with all of the pedigree news and notes.
Hi guys, Nicole Russo coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, where we have Grade 1 action throughout Keeneland's opening Fall Stars weekend. Again, our theme here this week in our Pedigree Spotlight is 2-year-olds trying new things, as stablemates Captivating Moon and Bet She Wins, really impressive over the summer at Arlington Park, trying dirt for the first time in Keeneland's major events for juveniles. Let's start by taking a look at the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity on Saturday card. Captivating Moon won his debut going a mile on turf, then was a good second in the Arlington, Washington Futurity at 7 furlongs on synthetic, his late rally coming up less than a length short. The son of Malibu Moon definitely going to appreciate distance as he gets on dirt for the first time, and kind of an interesting pedigree here. His sire, of course, the sire of Derby winner Orb, is definitely what you'd consider a dirt sire. Captivating Moon's Dam also won on dirt, but Out of her, he's a half-sibling to Turf Grade 1 winner Vicari, a major winner right here at Keeneland, and Turf Group 3 winner Abtal. Both of them are bi-turf-type sires, but the mare also produced Turf Grade 3 winner Single Solution by Flatter, not only what you'd consider a dirt-type sire, but one from the same AP&D line as Malibu Moon. So the immediate female family definitely seems to produce turf horses. But further back, it's the extended family of Serena's Song, of course, a champion dirt mare, whose foals were led by Group 1 winner Sophisticat overseas on turf, but her line's also responsible for a lot of dirt runners, including recent champion Honor Code. So maybe a slant in the immediate family toward turf, but there is some dirt ability in there. And furthermore, I love the way Captivating Moon has been training at Keeneland coming up to the Futurity. A lot of bounce in his stride, getting over the dirt main track. Looks like a horse with great energy right now. As I said, should appreciate the distance. And I can't ignore Malibu Moon on top. I will be looking at this horse very hard as a long shot play in a sizable and what looks like a pretty wide open Futurity field. Now let's take a quick look at the Grade 1 Alcibiades for the girls, the Friday opening day co-feature. Bet She Wins has earned one of the top buyers of this year for a 2-year-old filly. But the big question, of course, is how she'll do on dirt for the first time, coming off a romp in the Arlington, Washington Lassie. She's by First Samurai, who has some versatility coming from the Giants Causeway line, but certainly can get you a dirt runner like the versatile Lee, the good sprinter Justin Phillip, and the good 2-year-old filly Executive Privilege. Bet She Wins, the only runner out of the broodmare Spring Eclipse, who you're watching here win on dirt. She was also stakes placed on synthetic at Keeneland. The mare is a half to a graded winning turf mare in Softly, but a lot of dirt class further back in the pedigree. You see some names like graded stakes winners Till Forbid, Sarah Louise, Mr. Mardi Gras. So Bet She Wins, not out of the question that she could take to this surface as well, considering kind of the versatility in her lines. I'll be on site at Keeneland all weekend with colleagues Marty McGee and Byron King. You can follow us on Twitter for up-to-the-minute updates on all of Keeneland's action Fall Stars weekend. And for now, stick with us and Out of the Gate for more on this weekend's major events after these messages.
Coming up this Saturday, it's a special Belmont Keeneland all Grade 1 Stakes Pick 4. And DRF TV will have you covered with ticket-maker plays and in-depth analysis. Our coverage will be uploaded to video.drf.com and the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel on Thursday evening, and you can play this special wager on DRF Bets.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup. $750,000 is the purse. It's a prep for the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's at 1.25 miles. We see a field of 7. Todd Pletcher is represented by 3, including the morning line favorite, the number 7 Keen Ice. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com. Gentlemen, we have to talk about the pace of this race and beginning our analysis of the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Matt, one of your favorite horses in training is probably going to be on the lead in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and that's Diversify.
He should be all by himself, too, and if he does anything like he did up at Saratoga most recently, he might make this entire field pay. The problem here is, you're taking a look at the run up at Saratoga. This is at 1 mile and 1/8. Late on, he's going to pop back to his left lead. Maybe it was just because he was bored out there, because he was a 1/4 mile clear of everybody else, or maybe the distance was going to start getting to him. That's going to be a problem if it is the distance, because they're going 10 furlongs on Saturday.
Diversify, though, is likely to get at least a little bit of a breather on the backstretch. And while he's run some very fast races, I think he has 4 triple-digit Beyer speed figures on his page. This was by far the fastest. Perhaps Diversify is really rounding into form. But the distance is a question for Diversify. Not so with Keen Ice.
Yeah,
No.
it's really not a problem for Keen Ice. I mean, he's the one horse in this race. Maybe you could say the same thing about the 3-year-old Good Samaritan, but it really feels to me like the 3-year-old Keen Ice, this is what he wants. He wants 10 furlongs on dirt, and he's supposed to have at least something to run at with Diversify setting the pace.
Keen Ice, of course, has won at 1.25 miles. He winning the Travers over American Pharoah. That was kind of his big victory. It preceded a long losing streak. Then he came back to Belmont and he won the Suburban at 1.25 miles. Perhaps most importantly, Matt, in that race, wasn't a lot of pace either, and he was able to stay within range and then use his superior stamina to wear down the leaders. Do you envision a similar situation here?
I guess it depends how fast they go early on, or I should say how slow they go. If Diversify backs it down to a 50 half mile, then all of a sudden this becomes almost a replica of the Suburban, where Keen Ice did something that you just don't see with dirt racing. He actually ran it like a turf race, where each of his incremental fractions was faster than the one prior. Normally in dirt, obviously, it goes fast and then slows down as we go on. So if they back it down too much, then you bring the closers into the race. You know that they can finish and the stamina's not a problem.
Mike, after Keen Ice won the Suburban over course and distance at Belmont, he came back at Saratoga. Let's take the folks through his performance most recently against Gunrunner. He was up against it from a distance standpoint, from a class standpoint, and it doesn't help when you miss the break.
Yeah, he stumbled pretty badly at the start. It didn't help him. Not that he was going to beat Gunrunner anyway. You can see Gunrunner out there on the lead, just sort of powering away from this field. Like what Keen Ice does in this race, though, he just keeps about his own business here through the stretch. He's going to finish up at the end here and get up for second best in this race. I thought this was a perfectly good performance, and probably one that sets him up pretty well for this Suburban, where he gets to go a little bit longer, or Jockey Club Gold Cup, where he gets to go a little bit longer, and obviously the distance really helps him.
Matt, it's hard to believe that towards the end of June, Pavel was still an unraced maiden. Here he is as one of the main choices in the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
They've thrown an unbelievable amount at him in such a short amount of time, but keep in mind, this is a horse that his second lifetime start, they shipped him across the country to go from 6.5 furlongs to 9 furlongs to run against the Derby and the Preakness winner and the Jim Dandy. I don't think he was embarrassed there, and then he came back in this most recent start, and I was just blown away by this. This is the Smarty Jones, the local prep down at Parks for the Pennsylvania Derby, and he put the boots to this field. He got a 103 Beyer. The interesting thing for me anyway is the connections, all the common connections of IRAP. They chose to run IRAP in the Pennsylvania Derby as opposed to Pavel. To me, it almost feels like, in my opinion anyway, that they thought more of Pavel as a racehorse than they did of IRAP. We know how good IRAP turned into. I just kind of think this is a very, very positive move. He has all the upside. He's kind of the unknown in this spot. He could end up being anything, I think.
I'm with Matt. I want the upside. I want the unknown. All of the other horses in this race have some questions to answer. Will Destin ever get back to that Belmont Stakes form? Is Rally Cry truly a Grade 1 stakes horse? We know that Keen Ice, he can run second or third maybe more often than he wins races. Will Diversify want to go 1.25 miles? I think Pavel has all the upside. He didn't beat much in that Smarty Jones, but he did it the right way, and he did it with a fig. He'll be my top selection in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Let's scoot across the country and turn back to 6 furlongs for the Santa Anita Sprint Championship. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 1 Santa Anita Sprint Championship. We are going 6 furlongs at the Great Race Place. $300,000 is the purse. Boys, this race could be a prep for the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but it could also be a prep race for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And Mike Beer, American Anthem, does Bob Baffert even know what distance is the best for American Anthem? I always thought maybe it would be 7 furlongs and a mile. Is he going to be effective cutting all the way back to 6 here?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I would hope that Bob Baffert has some idea, at least. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's been training this horse for a couple of years. I hope he has some idea what this horse wants to do. Personally, is 7 better than 6 for him? Probably. As far as the Breeders' Cup goes, though, I almost feel like they have to run him in the sprint. I don't really know that this horse wants a 2-turn mile. I like that they're cutting him back here and giving him a shot to go 6.
I think the 6 is a little bit short for American Anthem. I do like him at 7, Matt. We're going to take a look at his most recent race, the H. Allen Jerkin Stakes at 7 furlongs. He is all the way on the outside. He's going to come with a good run. This race has come back so live.
Yeah, you've had 2 next out winners, one of them with a 107, another one with a 107. So clearly it's been a productive race. And you see him rallying on the outside. Problem was he just got a little bit outrun early on, and you had heard whispers from Baffert afterward that, you know what, we tried to get more stamina into him, maybe for the Haskell, and then we realized we're not going to do that. We're going to go here, and he thinks it may have taken away some of the natural speed. Maybe all of a sudden, now that we're cranked up, ready to go, 6 furlongs, he's going to be more forward. But keep in mind, it's not like this is a slow group that's going to be out there.
Matt, a couple of horses entered in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, prepped at Del Mar most recently in the Bing Crosby Stakes. It was a tale of 2 trips.
Certainly was, and it all revolved around Dreyfung, the Breeders' Cup winner from last year in the sprint, and it was just a situation where he dumps Mike Smith early on, and then coming for home, he floats about 9 paths off the rail. That ends up compromising the chances of Roy H., who's carried very wide, and luckily for Ransom the Moon and any of his backers, he's down on the inside. He gets to make the perfect run, and they're only separated by about a length when it's all said and done. I got to be honest with you, I'm not just saying this. Dan, you and I, look, we cashed on Ransom the Moon. I'm not going to give the money back, but at the same time, I think we got lucky. I think Roy H. ran the best race.
It's about time we had a little luck go our way. Ransom the Moon, though, you see on the inside, not a straw in his path. Roy H. is outside of riderless Dreyfung, and he was carried completely wide on the turn. Roy H. popped a gigantic Beyer speed figure 2 starts back at Belmont. He has turned into a serious sprinter, and I believe he's your top pick in the race.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to go in here. It's interesting, from a pace dynamic, there's not a ton of early speed. They're fast, but it's not as though you've got any true confirmed burner in this spot. I think from the outside, Kent DeSormo, from as far as the draw is concerned, sure, he can play off Mr. Hinks, the 5 drawn just to the inside. I think he's naturally faster. I say, you know what, go on with it. If you can beat him, great. If not, it's a nice tune-up, get you ready for the Breeders' Cup.
Mike, you agree with Matt. You saw the trip last time out. You thought Roy H. was compromised.
Yeah, I don't have anything to really add to what Matt said about him. I thought he ran really well last time. It was very unlucky. His race at Belmont prior to that was a really sharp score on a fast race, and it does look to me like he could make the front here if they want him to. A lot of things pointing to Roy H. here.
I'm going to take a little bit of a stab at a price with the number 2, Giant Expectations, who returned earlier this year off a very, very long layoff and really has done nothing wrong for trainer Peter Urton, who's just done a remarkable job with this horse. Let's go back to Giant Expectations' most recent race. That's the Pat O'Brien Stakes. This horse on the backstretch must have been 6-7 paths stalking the pace. He was wide all the way through the turn, and he continues with a good, solid run to win this. We talked about how 6 furlongs might be a little short for American Anthem. It might also be short for Giant Expectations. It appears that Urton is using this race as a springboard to the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I'm hoping that the pace is just a little bit faster than expected, however, and that Giant Expectations can get into it a bit earlier. He is in razor-sharp form. He ran a fast race last time out, and best of all, he should be a really nice price in the Santa Anita Sprint. JK is going to take a look at the cross-country pick 4 for his play of the day. A pick 4, 2 races at Keeneland, 2 races at Belmont. Craig Milkowski from TimeformUS spotlights the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Let's hit those segments right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Last week we were fortunate enough to hit the pick 4 at Belmont. This week we're going to try to hit the pick 4 at Belmont, but we're also going to try to hit it at Keeneland. We're going to try to hit the cross-country pick 4 that I've been a fan of and talked about on this show a number of times. 4 grade 1s, the grade 1 Champagne at Belmont, the grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup, the grade 1 Breeders' Fraternity from Keeneland, and the grade 1 Shadwell Mile. The first leg is going to be the grade 1 Champagne from Belmont. Keep in mind, we're doing a webinar on Saturday morning covering this bet, so I'm going to save my B horses for that, but I'm going to give you all my A horses that I'm going to use here, assuming that you're going to put your pick 4 in DRF Ticketmaker. Starting with the Champagne, I'm only going to use one A horse here. It's Chad Brown with the horse Good Magic, the 6 horse. That horse took a ton of money at Saratoga on debut, and when you see horses like that take a ton of money first out, usually means they're well meant. Chad's continuing to show confidence with this horse, running him in this grade 1 off of a maiden race in which he didn't win. He's still eligible as a maiden, and they decided to go in the grade 1. So I believe in that horse. I'm going to use that horse as a single A. Now we're going to go down to Kentucky, and we're going to take a look at the Breeders' Fraternity. This is a little bit of a trickier spot. I like 2 horses in here as A horses. I'm going to use Free Drop Billy, who I think that most people who were supporting Free Drop Billy expected that horse to really improve as he got a little bit more ground. Dale Romans is known for getting a horse to stretch out. This is kind of a home game for him, being in Keeneland, being in Kentucky. I think Free Drop Billy could run better. And then I'm going to use Give Me a Minute, okay, a horse that ran 3rd in that same race that Free Drop Billy was coming out of. I think that horse is live in this spot, stretching out. Not a strong opinion, but I feel like I need to use those 2 horses as A horses just because I think that they're probably the most likely winners in that spot. We're going to head back up to New York. I'm going to use another single A horse in this spot. Keen Ice is the most likely winner in this pick 4. I think that this horse is something special, especially at a mile and a quarter. Ask American Pharaoh. He was closing into a slow pace last time. Todd gave him some time off, is trained him up into this spot, and I would expect big things from him. I think Rally Cry will be forwardly placed, and we'll keep the pace honest in this spot. Pavel should also be forwardly placed, and I think Keen Ice will be running him down late. He is definitely the type of horse that I want going a mile and a quarter. And then for the trickier part of the sequence, we're going to head out to the Shadwell Mile. I guess my strong opinion is I'm not going to do anything with Miss Temple City. It's just I think she's a nice horse, and she's been fortunate enough to win grade 1s on this surface against the boys 2 times before. This is a 14-horse field, and I just don't think she'll get it done here. I think she'll take a lot of money. The A horses that I'm going to use in this spot are going to be my trusty friend, number 2, Divisadero. It's a little bit shorter for him than he's been running in the past, but I think that it's something that could kind of help strengthen his kick. I know one of my favorite races of Divisadero's is when he was running in the American Turf at Churchill Downs, and it was at a mile. So I think that this is something that could actually benefit him and kind of strengthen the kick rather than dulling it when he's running the longer distance. I'm going to use Bala Rocks. I know a lot of people were really high on Bala Rocks in his last two races at Belmont and at Saratoga, and now he shows up here. I'm going to take people's word for it. A lot of people that I respect really were strong on that horse. I think he's going to run better in this spot. I'm also going to use a little bit of a long shot here, Flatlined. Flatline's been running at longer distances, but all of his mile and a 16th races are actually pretty good. And I think maybe this is what he wants to do as well. Same theory with Divisadero. I'm going to use Flatline at a big price as an A horse, and then Heart to Heart, the trusty old Heart to Heart, really cool horse. He'll be forwardly placed in this spot. Sometimes that's always an advantage when you're looking at races like this, when there's not a lot of speed, and a lot of times horses can take back and try to save something. I think Heart to Heart will be out there winging it. They'll have to catch him. Those are my A horses for this pick 4 sequence. Like I said, check us out on Saturday morning. Pete Fortitel, Mike Maloney, doing a little bit of a webinar about this bet in particular, and I'll get into a little bit more details about the B horses that I'll be using. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Craig Mulkowski, Chief Speed Figure Analyst for TimeformUS. I'm going to look at the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup being run this Saturday at Belmont Park. I believe I heard it's a 99th running, so it's a long, storied race, a lot of great winners, and drew a decent field for Saturday. The first graphic I want to look at is the preview page. It kind of gives you an overview of the race in TimeformUS PPs before we dive into the individual horses. And I like to note a few things on here. The one thing I note is the 126 race rating, which was in the top center of the screen. And that kind of gives you an indication of what it's going to take to win this race. That is a little bit below average for a Grade 1 race this time of year, but with so many horses skipping, perhaps going straight to the Breeders' Cup, that's not a big surprise. To the right side, you can see the TimeformUS pace projector, and I did note that the number 1 Diversify is projected to be on a clear, pretty easy lead here. Normally, I show the full pace projector, but it's not really necessary. There's no favors early or hot pace projected or anything like that, so you can pretty much see it all there. Then I scan the spotlight figures and kind of see who fits and who doesn't in this race. And the first ones I know, and it's, kind of a rough idea, but I look at Highland Sky and Destin, and I know right away, and I'm familiar with these horses, of course, that they're probably a little bit over their heads here, and they're not horses I'm going to be interested in betting today. Highland Sky is first time on dirt, I believe, but he is not somebody that jumped out as a horse that I think could win this race. They're probably just taking a shot, given that the field's not as strong as in many years past. I also note the late ratings. You can see the early and late ratings, but the early ratings are reflected in the pace projector. But I look to see who the best closers are in here, and that's actually a tie between Good Samaritan, who's shown as the 4, and the Keen Ice, who I'm sure we're all familiar with by now. So let's look at a few of the contenders in here. The first horse who I mentioned, Diversify, he is projected to get an easy early lead in here, but that's not something I'm big on in a mile and a quarter race, especially he's never been this far. He's never been in this kind of company. He's been kind of beating up on New York bred horses. And though he has run fast, I suspect he's going to take quite a bit of action based on the big speed figures he has, not just from me, but for some others, like the buyers as well. So he's not a horse I really want to be here. He did get beat by Rally Cry when he set a nice slow early pace 4 races back. So I'm going to bypass Diversifying here. Which leads us to Rally Cry. He's a horse who's really bloomed as a 4-year-old from a speed figure perspective. You can see the red line in the middle of his past performances where he was running 110s, 111s. And despite that long layoff, he did come back and improve nicely. 4 out of his 5 races have been well in the 120s. And the one race where it wasn't was in the Grade 1 Met Mile, 1 turn, where he was just over his head, where More Spirit kind of freaked that day and ran a huge number. It wouldn't surprise me if he won, but again, he's a horse who hasn't done all that great. He tried to Woodward. He got beat by 10 lengths by possible division leader Gun Runner. He wouldn't shock me, but again, I think he's going to take a lot of money, so probably not one I'm going to be leaning towards. The next horse I'm going to talk about is Pavel. He's a pretty talented horse, obviously. He won first out, and then he was kind of thrown to the wolves in his very second start in the Grade 2 Jim Dandy, where he faced Always Dreaming, Cloud Computing. It was a really tough race on paper. It wound up being won by a different horse who's in this field, Good Samaritan, that we'll get to later. But out of that, he went to Pennsylvania and he ran in the Grade 3 Smarty Jones, and he just ran a huge effort. He beat the West Virginia Derby winner, Colonel's Dark Temper, that day. His speed figures are getting better and better. So obviously, he's a really talented horse and one to watch. He did skip that Pennsylvania Derby, which was won by West Coast, to show up in this race. The always present, it seems, Keen Ice is the next one I want to talk about. And he's going to love 1.25 miles. I think we all know that. It's probably his preferred distance. He always runs well at it, except when he goes to Dubai for some reason. He just never seems to run his race there. Doesn't like the track, or maybe he really needs Lasix. But he's definitely going to be a factor in here. I did note some things on him. He's just a horse that seems to have really bad luck for a deep closer. I underlined all the fractions that are in blue, which indicates it was a slow pace for the race. And we only use these in about 15% of the races, at max 20%. So for him to have so many kind of shows what the tough luck he's been up against. He never seems to get fields with a whole lot of speed. And it's probably the same case here, though. It should get an honest pace with Diversify. He's going to be free. The thing that makes me a little leery of Keen Ice is if you look back at the horses that he actually finishes in front of, we see Breaking Lucky, Shaman Ghost, Follow Me Crab, and Awesome Slew. They're just not Grade 1 horses. They're not anything that you'd be, drooling over to bet on in this field. They're just kind of decent runners who haven't won anything very big. So Keen Ice is another. He always takes money, but I'm going to look elsewhere. And that elsewhere is going to be Good Samaritan. He's a 3-year-old who won the aforementioned Jim Dandy when he beat all the Triple Crown winners, I believe, in that race. All 3 of the Triple Crown race winners. He did it his first time on dirt with a nice 119 speed figure. He came back in the Travers, and even though it looks like a dull running line, he kind of lagged at the back, didn't do much, got beat by 9 lengths. He did make a decent middle move, and he was beaten by West Coast, who's probably going to be one of the favorites in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and is just on a tear right now, having blitzed the Travers, and he went on and blitzed the Pennsylvania Derby. He did improve his speed figure. He's a horse that I like in here. I think he's actually going to be a price. So I'm going to play him to win, and I'm also going to box him with the other 3-year-old Pavel. I'm just a little skeptical of these older horses, and I'm going to take a shot with the younger group. That's it today for TimeformUS. Let's send it back to Dan in the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Mike Beer, Naira analyst. You found something in New York.
We're going to close out the card on Saturday at Belmont Park in race number 11. It's maidens on the grass. Not maidens, N1X horses on the grass here. The horse that I like is the 10 Clutch Cargo. He made his last start up at Saratoga. They tried to go 1 mile and 3/8 with him in a race where he happened to bump into Voodoo Song before Voodoo Song was Voodoo Song winning all these stakes races, and Voodoo Song just ran away from that field. This is his turf start prior to that one. I thought he ran okay in this race. He's back at the back of the pack here, last on the outside. They are not going a fast pace in front of him. They go 49 to the half. He will get to the outside in the stretch, and then he will try and close ground here into a final quarter that is going 22-3, and it's just too much for this horse. He can't make up enough ground. You can see right now he's still in behind horses. They haven't even gotten an opportunity to take him clear yet, and it's really working against this horse. He has too much ground to make up there, going too fast in front of him, but he will make a nice run here to get up for third. This horse shaped with a lot of potential as a 2-year-old on the turf, and this is only going to be his 4th turf start of the year so far. I think this horse has a lot of potential in a field where, you know, the favorites are a little suspect in this race, and I wonder if this horse can get back to one of his better races here and maybe pull off a little of an upset. He's a good price on the morning line.
Matt, one of the major stakes races at Keeneland on Saturday is the Thoroughbred Club of America Stakes. It looks like there's going to be a barbecue on the front end. You want a closer?
Yeah, I hope it sets up well for Ivy Bell. You know, I've gone to Ivy Bell in the past, and she's rewarded me. She tries. She may not be the fastest horse in the world, but I just think that she wants to go out there and beat you. Her most recent start, I don't want to hold that against her. She clipped heels, unfortunately, dumped the rider in that spot as the 3-5 favorite down at Churchill Downs. But if you go 2 starts back to Mountaineer, she didn't have a great start either, but she came over the top of everybody else. And you're going to see down on the inside, that's I'm a Looker. She's also going to be running in the TCA. She gets blinkers for the first time here. But on the outside, Ivy Bell, she's just running right now at this point. Again, from a speed figure standpoint, she's not nearly as fast as the likes of a Finley's Lucky Charm or any of these other girls that have got big speed. But I think they're going to line up on the front end. And if this thing falls apart late, I think Ivy Bell's going to be running on.
My best bet is at Keeneland as well. It's race number 8, the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity for 2-year-olds. I'm going to go with a maiden, the number 7, Give Me a Minute, trained by Dallas Stewart. This horse has a stout pedigree, and for the first time in his career, he's going to get an opportunity to stretch out around 2 turns. He made his career debut at Saratoga going 5.5 furlongs, a distance just way too short for him, and he was completely outrun early. The winner of that race, Sporting Chance, is pretty good, as we're going to see from their subsequent start, the Grade 1 Hopeful. Trainer Dallas Stewart showing a lot of confidence running a second-time maiden, Give Me a Minute, in the Hopeful against Sporting Chance. And I like the experience he gained in this race. He's down inside. He got some dirt kicked into his face. Sporting Chance is in front, and Give Me a Minute's going to sort of dive down towards the inside here. This is a good, solid performance, and again, a good learning experience for only start number 2. I do believe that 7 furlongs is still a little bit on the short side for Give Me a Minute. A big, stout pedigree, stretching out for the 3rd time in his career, and there should be some pace in the Breeders' Futurity to set up the late run of the number 7, Give Me a Minute, my best bet on Saturday. You can follow all of the latest DRF TV and video offerings on Twitter at DRF Video, and follow Daily Racing Form on social media on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. Best of luck this week when your horses break out of the gate.